He paid her to clean the marble floors, not to cradle his children on them. But when he found her curled up on the cold tile, holding his twins through their nightmares like they were her own, something broke inside him. Something he didn't know was still there. Grayson Wolfe had built an empire from nothing but steel resolve, an Ivy League degree, and a complete disregard for things that couldn't be measured, like time, love, or grief. His Manhattan penthouse towered above the city like a fortress of silence, polished and sharp, just like its owner. Every morning, Grayson entered the same private elevator, rode past his own name engraved in brushed silver, and stepped into a space that echoed because he didn't allow music, or laughter, or warmth. That had died 2 years ago, with his wife. He hadn't touched the nursery since. He left that to others. Downstairs, past imported Persian rugs and white-on-white decor, was a woman no one noticed. Not really. Naomi, 31, quiet, graceful in a way that didn't belong to the world she cleaned. She kept her curly hair pulled back beneath a modest black wrap, her uniform neat, and her heart, well, locked away. She had learned the hard way that feelings weren't useful. Not when you were barely scraping by, not when you were black and invisible in a world built to overlook you, not when the people you loved had a way of vanishing without warning. So she kept her head down. Until the twins. 2-year-olds Bella and Ezra Wolfe were born into privilege and tragedy. Their mother, Elise, died shortly after childbirth. Naomi had arrived when they were 6 months old, originally to clean. But it wasn't long before Naomi noticed what no one else did. That the twins didn't cry for their father. They cried for anyone who stayed. "Miss Naomi?" Bella's tiny voice had trembled from the crib one night, just weeks after Naomi started. "Yes, sweet girl," Naomi's whisper had answered from the doorway. "I scared," Bella said. Ezra had already been whimpering. The room was dim, cold. The night nanny had fallen asleep in the lounge chair with earbuds in. Naomi stepped in, just for a moment, just to soothe them. She'd meant to leave once they were asleep. But the carpet was soft, and their little hands clung to her blouse, and it had been a long time since someone wanted her close. That night she stayed. Grayson never noticed, or pretended not to. He kept his distance, even from the twins, especially from them. His assistant, Ava, often hinted that it was time to engage. "They're not just tax write-offs, Grayson," she'd joke, but he'd shut her down with a glare. He couldn't be what they needed. He was too broken, too guilty. Elise had begged him to slow down, to be home more, to hold her when the pain became unbearable. But he'd had mergers to close, boardrooms to impress. He didn't hold her enough. And now there was nothing left to hold. On a cold Thursday in November, everything shifted. Grayson had arrived home unexpectedly early after cancelling a deal last minute, a rare thing. The board thought it was strategic. In truth, he'd just felt off, restless, like something was pulling him home. He walked past the doorman, through the marble lobby, nodded at no one, and entered the penthouse. Silence. The night nanny was nowhere in sight. He made his way to the nursery, almost by instinct. He hadn't stepped foot in it since the funeral. He pushed open the door and froze. There on the floor lay Naomi, curled protectively between both cribs. Bella's tiny hand was tangled in her shirt. Ezra's cheek rested against Naomi's shoulder. A faint glow from the nightlight bathed them in gold. Naomi's eyes were closed. She wasn't pretending. She was asleep. Tears stained Bella's cheeks, but she wasn't crying anymore. Neither was Grayson, not outwardly. But something inside him had cracked so loud, he felt it echo through his ribs. If you walked in and saw someone else comforting your child better than you ever had, would you be angry, or would you feel something else? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Your gut reaction matters. Grayson stood in the doorway far longer than he should have. The room was quiet now, peaceful in a way he hadn't known peace in years. The soft hum of the nightlight, the even breaths of sleeping children, the almost imperceptible rise and fall of Naomi's chest. She had wrapped herself around them like instinct, as if they were hers. As if she knew the exact rhythm to match, the perfect temperature to keep them warm, the precise silence required to ease their cries. Grayson felt like an intruder in his own home. He didn't understand the feeling rising in his throat. It wasn't rage, wasn't jealousy. It was worse. It was shame. He walked away before she woke. The next morning, Naomi stirred with a stiff neck and an aching back. She stretched quietly, careful not to wake the twins, and began folding their little blankets. As she smoothed the last one, a voice stopped her cold. "Do you always sleep in here?" Naomi turned. Grayson stood by the door, sleeves rolled, shirt unbuttoned at the collar, still polished but less put together than usual. His eyes, though, were unreadable. She straightened. "Only when—" "They need it, sir." He looked past her, to the cribs. "And how often is that?" Naomi didn't want to answer, but she wouldn't lie. "Often." A long silence stretched between them. Grayson stepped inside. "I saw you last night," he said. Naomi's throat tightened. "I'm sorry, Mr. Wolfe. The nanny had stepped out. They were crying, and I didn't mean to—" "I'm not reprimanding you." Naomi blinked. "That was unexpected." Grayson ran a hand through his hair, frustrated, not with her, but with himself. "They don't cry with you, or if they do, you stay." She hesitated, then said softly, "Sometimes. That's all children need." He looked at her then, really looked, and what he saw wasn't just a maid. It wasn't even just a woman who loved children. It was someone who stayed, something he hadn't done, not when Elise asked him to, not when it mattered most. He nodded once. "Thank you." Naomi said nothing, but in her silence, something settled between them. Later that day, Ava cornered him in his office. "You look like someone just told you your stock's tanked." Grayson didn't look up from his screen. "I'm fine." Ava narrowed her eyes. "You're wearing yesterday's tie." He sighed. "Ava, not now." She leaned against the glass wall. Okay, but can I just say one thing? That maid, Naomi, I've seen her with the twins. She's not just help, Grayson. She's something else." Grayson stayed silent. Ava softened. "They cling to her like she's gravity." That night he sat at the edge of his bed, watching the city lights blink far below. His penthouse felt colder than usual, and all he could think about was Naomi on the nursery floor, holding his children like they were her world. Naomi, meanwhile, was trying to shake off the conversation. She didn't want complications. She didn't want kindness. The last time she'd let herself care like this, she'd lost everything. Her baby girl Jordan had only lived a few months, born too early. Naomi had held her through machines and prayers, then let her go with nothing left but a hospital bill and a hollow chest. Since then, Naomi didn't cradle babies, until Bella reached for her that first night. Something had cracked open, and every moment since had felt like both healing and reopening a wound. The next evening, Grayson asked to speak with her again, in the study this time. She stood across from him, nervous. His walls were lined with law books, modern art, and ambition. It felt like standing in a courtroom. He didn't look at her when he spoke. "I'm hiring a new nanny, full-time." Naomi blinked. "Yes, sir. But not to replace you." She tilted her head. Grayson finally looked up. "I want you to stay, but not just to clean. I need someone they trust." Naomi's heart thudded in her chest. "You don't have to do that." "I know," he said, "but I saw the way they look at you. That's not something money can buy." Naomi searched his face for mockery, pity, power. She found none. Just a man realizing, maybe for the first time, what mattered. At this point, what do you think he should do? Follow his pride or follow his heart? Tell us in the comments. Should Grayson keep his distance or finally show up for his children? Grayson hadn't planned to sit at the breakfast table. In fact, he rarely did. Meals were something the staff prepared for the twins and the nanny, and he usually took his own in his office, or not at all. But that morning, something compelled him to walk into the kitchen, pour his own coffee, and sit. It startled Naomi. She had just set down Ezra's spoon and was wiping his chin with a gentle touch when she saw the shadow at the door. Her whole body tensed like a startled deer. Grayson felt it. The stiffness. The unspoken, "What are you doing here?" He sat anyway. Ezra babbled something incoherent and reached for his bottle. Bella clapped. Naomi didn't speak. She focused on the twins, acting as though he wasn't there. It stung more than he expected. He cleared his throat. "I'd like to be more involved." Naomi looked up slowly. "With the children?" "Yes." She nodded once. "Okay." Silence again. Thick, awkward. Naomi turned her attention back to Bella, who had yogurt on her nose. Grayson stood up before finishing his coffee. He couldn't take the weight of her quiet. He'd forgotten how much silence could say. That day, Naomi kept her distance. She kept to cleaning, cooking, tending to the twins. She made sure Grayson had no reason to linger around her. Every time he entered a room, she left it. He wasn't blind to it, and it made him question if he'd done something wrong. Maybe he had crossed a line. Later, in the quiet of the nursery, Naomi talked to herself in whispers as she folded Bella's tiny clothes. "Don't be foolish, Naomi," she murmured. "This is not your home. These are not your babies. And he is not your rescue." Still, her hands trembled. She remembered the way he'd looked at her, not with dominance, but with something that terrified her even more. Respect. Grayson sat in his office that night and stared at the framed photo of Elise. Her smile used to calm him. Now, it haunted him. "I don't know what I'm doing," he whispered. He hadn't said those words aloud in years. He could feel something changing in him, a softening he couldn't afford. Naomi wasn't just the help anymore, and that scared the hell out of him. Not because he didn't respect her, but because he did, because for the first time in 2 years, he wasn't numb. The next morning, Naomi found a handwritten note on the kitchen counter. "Naomi, I've arranged for the twins' doctor visit today. I'll be joining. You don't have to go, unless you want to. G." She stared at it for a long time. He was giving her a choice. She hated that she appreciated it. At 2 p.m., she found herself standing next to him in the pediatrician's waiting room. Bella was in her arms, Ezra on Grayson's lap. They sat in silence, until Grayson, softly, asked, "Were you close to your parents?" Naomi's breath caught. She didn't look at him. "My father left when I was a baby. My mother passed when I was 16. He didn't press, but something in his expression shifted, like he saw her more clearly. "And you?" she asked, surprising herself. "My parents were expectations, not people." They shared a glance, not warm, but real. After the appointment, they stepped out into the crisp fall air. The twins were asleep in their car seats. Naomi adjusted Bella's blanket, tucking it around her gently. Grayson watched her, not her hands, her. The quiet way she moved through the world, soft, sure, invisible, unless you were really looking. "I don't want you to feel uncomfortable around me," he said suddenly. Naomi stood still. "I haven't done anything to make you feel—" He stopped. "I'm not used to this." "Neither am I," she said quietly. "I'm trying," he added. "I know." And with that, she turned toward the car. That night, Naomi sat at the foot of her twin-sized bed in the servants' quarters and stared at her phone screen. She hadn't called her sister in weeks, hadn't opened the box of baby clothes she kept in her closet for years. She felt like a wall was cracking, and she didn't know if it was supposed to. Meanwhile, Grayson watched the baby monitor from his study, not because he needed to, but because Naomi was in the room, and the twins were asleep with smiles on their faces, because she was there. It started with the kind that turned Manhattan sidewalks into rivers, and the sky into a constant flicker of white-blue fire. By 5 p.m., traffic was chaos, the nanny had cancelled, and Grayson stood in front of Naomi, tension in his shoulders. "She says she can't get here. Road closures." Naomi shrugged slightly. "I can stay with them, sir. It's not a problem." Grayson glanced at the clock. "And dinner?" Naomi lifted an eyebrow, a rare flicker of mischief. "You ordering in?" He sighed. I was supposed to meet with a venture firm. She didn't say they can wait. She just said, the twins need dinner and comfort, not chaos. He hesitated. Then, I'll stay. It was the first time Grayson ever chose to be fully present without being forced to. By 6:30 p.m. the twins were in the bath, giggling as Naomi pretended the washcloth was a spaceship. Grayson stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching like he couldn't believe he was part of this moment. Ezra splashed water over the tub's edge. Hey, Naomi playfully scolded. Sir Ezra, the splash master. Grayson chuckled. It slipped out before he could stop it. Naomi glanced over. You have a nice laugh, she said simply. He froze. I didn't mean to, she started. No, he cut in. Thank you. It's just been a while. She nodded and turned back to the kids. But something changed. Softer air, shared space, shared silence. After the twins were tucked into bed, thunder cracked overhead. The city glowed through rain-soaked glass, and Grayson wandered into the kitchen. Naomi was there, barefoot, making tea. You want some? She offered, holding up the kettle. He nodded. They stood in silence until he said, Did you always want to be a maid? Naomi smiled without humor. You don't grow up dreaming of wiping countertops. He winced. That came out wrong. I know what you meant, she said gently. No, I wanted to be a teacher, early childhood education. What happened? Naomi hesitated, fingers tightening around her mug. My daughter got sick. I dropped out of college to care for her. After she passed, her voice faltered. I couldn't go back. I didn't see the point. Grayson blinked. Naomi rarely talked about herself, but the way her voice trembled, like she was speaking through a bruise, made him go still. I'm sorry, he said softly. She nodded. She had eyes like Bella's. That hit him in the chest. I didn't know, he whispered. No one does. I don't tell people. It's easier that way. But you told me. Naomi met his eyes. I don't know why. They sat across from each other at the kitchen island, steam rising between them, thunder still rumbling outside. Grayson cleared his throat. Elise loved storms. Naomi tilted her head. She used to say they made her feel less alone, like the whole world was crying with her. Naomi's breath caught. He'd never said her name before, not to Naomi. She was sick for years, Grayson continued, but I ignored it. I thought money could fix it. Better hospitals, private doctors. Love's not currency, Naomi whispered. No, but I thought it was. He looked down. She died holding a nurse's hand, not mine. Naomi didn't know what to say, so she didn't say anything. She just reached out, slowly, and covered his hand with hers. Warmth, real, unforced. His fingers didn't pull away. Hours passed. Naomi checked the twins one more time before heading toward the hallway. I should stay, Grayson said suddenly. She turned. I mean, until the storm passes. You don't have to leave. Naomi hesitated. I sleep downstairs. You don't have to tonight. The offer hung in the air, too tender, too raw. Naomi's breath caught. I don't want misunderstandings. He nodded. It's not like that. She studied him, his eyes, his posture. There was no suggestion, no pressure, just a man who didn't want to be alone for once. Okay, she said. They sat in the living room with blankets and pillows, the sound of rain beating against glass. Naomi eventually fell asleep on one end of the couch, legs curled up, breathing soft. Grayson watched her. Then, without thinking, he whispered, You feel like home. At this point, what do you think he should do? Follow his pride or follow his heart? Would you trust the moment or protect your heart? Let us know in the comments. Morning came with golden light streaming through the tall glass windows. Naomi stirred slowly, eyes fluttering open on the sofa. The blanket had shifted sometime during the night. But it wasn't the blanket that made her heart catch. It was the second one, draped gently over her by someone else's hands. She sat up, The other end of the couch was empty. Grayson was in the kitchen, cooking. "Morning," he said without turning. Naomi blinked. "You cook?" He shrugged. "Not well, but the kids eat eggs, right?" Naomi leaned on the kitchen island, watching him crack eggs with more confidence than she expected. "I usually do this when no one's looking." "So you're showing off now?" she teased gently. He looked over his shoulder, half smiling. "Maybe." It was disarming, domestic, almost warm. Naomi hated how much she liked it. The twins woke and padded in with bedhead and sleepy giggles. Naomi scooped up Bella and kissed her forehead. Grayson lifted Ezra without hesitation. It wasn't perfect. He held him like someone still learning how to love again, but it was real. They all sat at the kitchen table, together, like a family. For one quiet morning, it felt like something out of a dream. Neither of them dared to speak aloud. Later, while the twins napped, Naomi stood by the laundry machines folding sheets. Grayson appeared in the doorway. "There's something I want to show you," he said quietly. Naomi followed him without asking. He led her to a room she hadn't seen before, a study, but not his. Soft wallpaper, a rocking chair, photos of Elise, baby footprints framed, half-filled journals. Naomi's breath caught. "She designed this room," Grayson said, "before she died." Naomi walked slowly toward the shelf. Her fingers traced the edge of a baby photo. "She wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, but I convinced her to keep her career, said we'd hire help, said it would be easier that way." His voice cracked. "She died resenting me." Naomi turned. "She asked me to stay home the night before the C-section, just to talk, watch a movie. She was scared." Grayson stared at the carpet. "But I took a call, worked late. By the time I got to the hospital, she was already in surgery." Silence wrapped the room. Naomi's eyes filled with quiet understanding. "You blame yourself. I didn't get to say goodbye." Naomi's throat tightened. She crossed the room slowly. "She would have forgiven you." He met her eyes. "Would you?" Naomi blinked. "Me? If someone let you down like that?" Her answer came too fast. "I already did." Grayson frowned. Naomi looked down, twisting the fabric of her sleeve. "The night my daughter stopped breathing, I was asleep." Grayson stood still. "I'd been up for days. I finally dozed off. She was beside me in the hospital bed. I was touching her hand." Her voice cracked. "When I woke up, she was gone." Tears slid down her cheeks. "I didn't say goodbye either." Grayson stepped forward. "Naomi, I never forgave myself. I never let anyone else in after that. Not really." He reached for her, hesitating, then placed a hand gently on her arm. She didn't pull away. Grief met grief, and in that space between them, something fragile began to heal. That night, Naomi opened the box she kept under her bed. Inside were baby shoes, a blanket, a pacifier she couldn't throw away. She sat with them in silence, her tears falling freely for the first time in years. In the room next door, Grayson stood over his sleeping children. His hand brushed Bella's hair. Then, without overthinking it, he walked to the guest room, knocked once, and when Naomi opened it, eyes red but shoulders steady, he said, "Tomorrow. Let's take them to the park." Naomi nodded. "Together," he added. She smiled softly. "Okay. Would you share your past with someone new, or would you keep it locked away?" Comment below. What's harder, letting go or letting someone in? Central Park glowed in the soft gold of a Saturday morning. Leaves crunched underfoot. The twins squealed in delight as Bella chased a squirrel and Ezra toddled toward a pile of leaves taller than him. Grayson stood beside Naomi, a paper coffee cup in hand. No bodyguard, no phone in sight, just him, her, the kids. No walls. Naomi wore her hair down for the first time since she'd started working at the Wolf residence. The soft curls caught the light. Grayson noticed, and she noticed him noticing. "Watch this, Daddy," Bella called. Grayson blinked. It was the first time she'd said it in months. He walked over, knelt, and watched her jump with 2 feet over a small puddle. Ezra clapped like it was the Olympics. Naomi laughed. It was the first time he realized how beautiful her laugh was. Not polished, not soft, just real. They stayed for hours, a shared pretzel, a chase around the duck pond. Naomi slipped once on a slick leaf and Grayson caught her by the elbow. "Careful," he said, their faces inches apart. "Thanks," she whispered, pulling back just before it lingered too long. But the moment hung between them like suspended air. Back at the penthouse, the twins napped, cheeks flushed from the cold. Grayson poured 2 glasses of cider, handed her one without asking. They sat on the floor of the nursery, just like she had weeks ago. "I forgot how good this room could feel," he said. Naomi smiled. "Love can do that." He looked over. "You really believe that?" She hesitated. "I didn't. Not for a long time." Grayson's voice lowered. "And now?" Naomi stared at the twins. "Now? Maybe." They talked for hours. About childhoods, favorite books, secret dreams. Grayson told her he used to paint when he was a teenager. "My father said it was a waste of time." "Do you still paint?" "No," he said. "But sometimes I think about it." "You should." At one point, Naomi told him her daughter's middle name. Hope. She said it with a smile this time. No tears, just warmth. "I think about who she would have been, what her laugh might have sounded like." Grayson said nothing, just reached across the carpet and held her hand. No move, no pressure, just presence. Naomi didn't let go. Dinner was quiet, simple. The twins were too sleepy to fuss. Later, as Grayson cleared the table, Naomi leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, watching him hum an off-key tune. "Do you ever stop being impressive?" she teased. He looked up, surprised. "I'm not trying to be." "That's what makes it worse," she smiled. There was something so natural about the way they moved now, like magnets finding their alignment. That night, Naomi tucked the twins in while Grayson read a bedtime story. His voice was soft, calm. When he reached the final page, Bella reached up and touched his cheek. "I love you, Daddy." Grayson blinked. He kissed her forehead. "I love you too, Bells." Naomi watched from the hallway, one hand over her chest. Later, as they walked back to the guest room, Grayson paused. "Can I show you something?" Naomi nodded. He led her to a closet in the back of the study and pulled out a canvas. Half finished. Soft strokes of grey and gold. A skyline. A mother holding a child. Rough, incomplete, but full of feeling. "I started this after Elise died. I haven't touched it since." Naomi walked closer. "It's beautiful." He looked at her. "I want to finish it." Naomi looked at the painting, then at him. "Then do it." He looked down, then slowly stepped forward. She didn't move. His hand reached up, brushing a curl from her cheek. "Naomi," he whispered. She exhaled softly. "I know." He leaned in. Their lips met in the softest, quietest kiss. It didn't rush, it didn't burn, it healed. When something feels this real, do you trust it, or wait for it to fall apart? Tell us in the comments, can 2 broken hearts really build something whole? The kiss changed everything. For the first time in years, Naomi allowed herself to feel something that wasn't survival. And for the first time ever, Grayson let someone close without conditions or control. The next morning, they moved around each other with quiet smiles and subtle glances. Not lovers, not strangers, something in between, something new. But the world outside hadn't changed, and the past always finds a way back in. It started with whispers. The household staff wasn't blind. A lingering look here, a late-night tea there. Mrs. Lillian, the housekeeper, approached Naomi in the hallway. "I mean this kindly," she said, "but be careful." Naomi stiffened. "Careful of what?" "Of what this house does to women like us when they get too comfortable." Naomi's throat closed. "I've seen it before," Mrs. Lillian said. "A white man can kiss you in private and call it something special. But the world outside that door won't see it that way, neither will his board. Naomi tried to shake it off, but the words burrowed deep. She began to pull away, softly at first, missing eye contact, speaking only when needed. Grayson noticed. At first he assumed it was nerves, but by day 3 of the shift, he confronted her. "You're avoiding me," he said as they cleaned up after dinner. Naomi shook her head. "I'm just busy." "Don't lie to me." She flinched. Grayson stepped back. "I didn't mean that." "You're my boss," she said, voice sharp now. "It was a mistake." He blinked. "A mistake? This, us. It can't happen. It shouldn't have happened." "Naomi, where is this coming from?" She looked away. "You don't know what it's like to be me in your world." He stepped closer. "Then explain it. You don't get to ask me to open my soul in a house where I'm still expected to clean up after everyone when the music stops." He was quiet, stung. Naomi grabbed a dish towel, folded it too tightly. "You want something real, Grayson? Then stop seeing me as the woman who fixed your family for you." He stared at her. "No," he said finally. "I see you. And that's the problem, isn't it? Because I do feel something. And maybe that scares you more than it scares me." "You don't feel guilt?" she snapped. "For how easily this could all look, like you rescued the maid?" Grayson didn't respond. His silence was the answer. Naomi's voice softened, but it cut deeper. "You say you're trying, but when it matters, you still freeze." That night, Naomi packed a bag. She left the nursery door slightly open, heartbreaking. She whispered to the twins in their sleep, one hand on each tiny back. "I love you," she breathed. "Don't forget me." She left a note on the kitchen island. "Thank you for everything, but I can't stay where I can't belong." Naomi Grayson found the note at dawn. He didn't react, not at first, just stood there, staring at her handwriting, the kitchen bathed in pale light. Then he crumpled it in his fist. He didn't go to work that day. He sat in the nursery all day. Bella climbed into his lap. Ezra played with his cufflinks, and Grayson just held them, silent, hollow. Ava showed up late that afternoon. She took one look at him and said, "You messed it up, didn't you?" "She left," Grayson replied. "Then go get her." "I don't know how." "Then figure it out," she snapped. "Because I've never seen you fight for anything that mattered." He looked up, eyes red. "I don't know what I'm doing." "Then try. For once, try with your heart, not your money." Meanwhile, Naomi sat in her sister's guest bedroom in Queens, staring out the window. A pink onesie sat folded beside her suitcase. She hadn't brought it before, but this time she had packed it. Her heart still ached, but something inside her whispered, "He saw you. And you let him." And that mattered. Naomi didn't sleep that night. Her sister's apartment buzzed with city noise, horns, buses, late-night conversations through the thin walls, but all she could hear were echoes, Ezra's giggles, Bella saying, "Daddy," Grayson whispering, "You feel like home." She pressed her palm against the folded pink onesie in her suitcase. She had brought it as a goodbye. Now it felt like a question. Was she really going to walk away from the first thing that had felt like love in years? Grayson sat in the nursery, lights dimmed. He didn't call Ava, didn't leave voicemails, didn't call Naomi. He just sat, one arm around Bella, one hand resting on Ezra's back. The two of them slept tangled in his arms like they knew she was gone, and it broke him. He reached for his phone, typed Naomi's number, then deleted the message. Did she hate him? Was she gone for good? "You don't know what it's like to be me," she'd said. And she was right. He had loved Elise, yes, but Elise had fit his world, came from money, private schools, white picket safety. She didn't have to defend her space. Naomi had walked into his home with nothing but quiet dignity and earned every ounce of trust, of love, of connection. He had failed her the moment he let her doubt that. The next morning, Naomi watched a mother with 2 toddlers on the subway platform. The younger one dropped a stuffed rabbit and started wailing. Naomi instinctively crouched to pick it up before the mother noticed. She handed it over gently. The little girl looked up at her, teary-eyed, and whispered, "Thank you." Naomi's heart clenched. That afternoon she visited a daycare center near her sister's apartment just to see it. The receptionist greeted her kindly. "Are you applying for a position?" Naomi smiled. "Just thinking." The walls were painted with handprints, the bookshelf overstuffed with stories. One child ran to the front desk with a crayon drawing of their mom. Naomi nodded to herself. "Thank you," she said, and left. Across the city, Grayson finally did what he hadn't in years. He painted. Brush strokes, slow, shaky. The canvas began to take shape. Not a mother this time, but a woman on the floor, curled between two cribs, holding light in her arms. He didn't cry, but he bled into the painting, and when it was finished he stared at it. Then he whispered, "Come home." Naomi returned to her sister's that evening to find a package by the door. No note, no sender. Inside, a frame. A painting. The painting. She gasped. Her eyes filled instantly, the brushwork, the detail, the quiet reverence. He had painted her, not as a maid, not even as a mother, but as a guardian. A heart, a place where love lived. Her fingers trembled. There was no note, just a business card taped to the back. "Grayson Wolfe, you were never the maid. You were the miracle." Naomi sat down on the edge of the bed, staring, shaking, breathing. She closed her eyes and made a decision. Back at the penthouse, Grayson was reading to the twins again, alone. Halfway through the book, Bella pointed at the door. "Naomi," she whispered. Grayson looked up. His heart dropped. No one was there. But then, soft footsteps. Naomi stepped in, holding the frame in her arms. "I believe you left something at my door," she said. Grayson stood. "I didn't know if you'd want to see me." "I didn't know if I wanted to," she replied, "but then I looked at the painting and I saw the truth." Grayson swallowed. "What truth?" "That you see me." Silence. Then, "And I see you too." She walked into the nursery. Bella reached for her instantly. Ezra squealed with joy. Naomi sat between the cribs again like she had that very first night. Grayson knelt beside her. Their shoulders touched. This time, she leaned in, and this time, he stayed. Do you believe true love is about timing or about courage? Drop your thoughts below. What would you have done in Naomi's shoes? 3 weeks later, the Wolfe residence didn't feel like the same place. It wasn't the decor, or the layout, or even the people. It was the atmosphere. The silence had changed, from cold and empty to peaceful. The rooms didn't echo anymore. Laughter filled the halls. Warmth came not from fireplaces, but from presence. Naomi was no longer just in the home. She was part of it. Grayson had offered her a new title, Child Development Specialist, equal pay, equal standing. But Naomi had laughed softly and said, "I don't need a title to know who I am here." Still, he had insisted. Because it wasn't about the label. It was about respect. And she deserved that. Every inch of it. One Sunday morning, Naomi stepped into the nursery to find Grayson asleep on the floor. Ezra tucked under one arm. Bella curled against his chest. She froze. It was exactly how he had found her once. Only now, the roles had reversed. Her hand went to her mouth, emotion overwhelming her. Grayson stirred, saw her standing there, and smiled sleepily. "There's something magical about this floor," he said. Naomi chuckled through her tears. "It's where love started." That afternoon, they took the twins to the botanical garden. Naomi wore a sundress. Grayson wore jeans. For once, he didn't check his phone even once. As the kids chased butterflies, Naomi turned to him. "You're different." He tilted his head. "How so?" "You're here," she said. "I was always here." "No," she said gently. "You were around. Now, you're with us." Grayson looked toward the twins, then back at her. "Because I finally have something worth showing up for." He took her hand, and this time there was no hesitation. At bedtime, Bella pulled Naomi close. "Will you stay tonight?" Naomi looked at Grayson. He nodded, so she stayed. She held the children as they drifted off. Grayson sat nearby, just watching her. The quiet awe in his eyes said everything. When the twins were fully asleep, he whispered, "Naomi?" She looked up. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a tiny velvet box. Her heart stopped. "I'm not asking for now. I'm asking for someday," he said. "But I need you to know, this wasn't an accident. You didn't just help me raise them, you raised me too." Her eyes filled instantly. She opened the box. Inside, not a diamond, but a simple gold band etched with one word: home. Months passed. Naomi started night classes again, early childhood development. Grayson insisted on helping with the twins during her study hours. One evening, as Naomi walked in after a late class, she paused in the hallway. The nursery door was slightly ajar. Grayson sat cross-legged on the rug. Ezra snuggled against his side. Bella sat in his lap, book open. Naomi smiled. She had seen that scene before. Only now, it wasn't just healing, it was whole. Do you believe true love can survive even after being tested this hard? Share your thoughts, or your own story of unexpected love, in the comments. Someone might need to hear it today. Years later, people still whispered, the billionaire who fell in love with his maid. But they always missed the real story. It wasn't about wealth, or status, or scandal. It was about two broken people who found their way back to life, through love, on a cold nursery floor.